Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another edition of the Opposition Preview, guys. First things first, as always, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new around here, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Finally, international break is done. The Premier League is returning this weekend. Chelsea are back in action with a home game against Burnley as we begin the run-in to the end of the season. Need every point possible to try and qualify for European football. Burnley also need every point possible as well to try and stay in the division. Chelsea's home form good, only lost once at home since October, but it'd be wrong to think this will be an easy game against Burnley. It's always difficult playing against teams that are going to be fighting for their lives. So I'm going to expect, a tricky game. Yes, it's going to be a plus. There's no Datro Fofana available for Burnley due to the loan rules. But it's still going to be a difficult task and one that we should be approaching, with full respect and not taking it for granted. But to dive into the game, all things Burnley, delighted to be joined by Joe from the Turfcast. Mate, welcome back. We caught up back in October. Obviously we got a 4-1 win up at Turf Moor. First half, you were pretty good. Second half, it kind of fell apart a little bit. Since then, what have you made of Burnley, mate? Since then, because obviously it's been a little bit of a disappointment. You are in the bottom three. Forest's points deduction has brought you back into play slightly. What's kind of the feeling around the club right now as you head into sort of the final 9 or 10 games?
Yeah, just want to sort of like it's weird because it's changed. Like, we've been so disappointed with the season. Like, we shouldn't be in the position that we're in my opinion. We have better players in the position we're in. We've just made a lot of mistakes, both at managerial level and on the pitch that have put us in this position. I think Company's been quite stubborn with some of the stuff that he's done. Basically playing James Trafford between we knew earlier in the season as fans that James Trafford wasn't good enough for the Premier League. He will be a very good goalkeeper, but we had a better goalkeeper on the bench. So there's just frustration is the main thing with how the season has gone. Frustrated that we are where we are because we feel like we're better than our league position. Like, up until recently, we're on the same points as Sheffield United, and then when you watch Sheffield United and watch us, you can see a clear difference. They are a shambles. But we are quite good, just a little bit unlucky in parts. So it was just frustrating to be on the same points as Sheffield United and people to be putting us in that same category, because of course they would, because we're on the same points as us. And as you said earlier on my channel, the league table doesn't lie. But thankfully we have seemed to have turned a bit of a corner recently. We've been playing better in a lot of games. I say the last 3 games really, ever since that 3-0 defeat at Palace. And fans were still getting frustrated though, because we were playing better, but we weren't actually winning games. We weren't really picking up the wins that we needed, but we did get a win last time out against Brentford. So there's kind of like a bit of hope now that, we're back in it, because yes, it's not just a win against Brentford. It's obviously the points deduction against Forest. I think we went from, before the Brentford game, 12 points away from safety to then beating Brentford and bringing ourselves to 9, and then Forest getting the points deduction, and now we're 5. So there's a bit of hope now. Like, we're in a position that we probably don't deserve on the base of the season because of the points deductions, but we are hopeful again now that who knows if we get a point at Stamford Bridge, and then we play Wolves at home on Tuesday straight after it, and then we've got Everton, Sheffield United, and somebody else, so Brighton. So all games that we can win. So hope rather than expectation, but the main overriding emotion from the season is probably frustration, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you definitely improved over the last couple of games. Probably, could have lost against West Ham, but arguably should have won that game from the position you were in. A big win against Brentford. Important points get on the board at this stage of the season. Touched on Vincent Kompany. Did an exceptional job in the Championship last year. Yes, you obviously had Ian Martson on loan from us, which was a big help. But in general, performed very well. The standout team in that division. What have you made of how Vincent's done in his first season in Premier League management? From an outside looking in, I perhaps would have expected a little bit better from Burnley. Are you surprised that he's tried to implement the same sort of style and maybe not tried to adjust things slightly? What have you made of how he's approached and how he's set up Burnley for the majority of this season?
I wouldn't say I'm surprised, because I expected it. I expected Kompany and Bellamy, because they did a lot of interviews in the summer. I think they were both on the overlap at least at one point, and other big channels like that. And they were all saying, look, we're going to stick to our guns no matter what. And they do come across as a type of people that won't waver under pressure, and they will stick to the guns. And they have done. And in a way, I kind of respect it, because we are getting better. And I think it's a case of we will go down now, play that way again in the Championship, rebuild the squad, and then hopefully kick on next season, not next season, sorry, the season after in the Prem with this style, because they will still play it. It'll go one or two ways now. We'll go down and obviously hopefully have a good season next season and come back up. And then if they carry on to be stubborn and play in their way, and then it's happening again, they'll probably get sacked at that point, because we're like, right, we can't have another season written off, because it tends to be just written off this season by the manager, the board. It's a case of we've gone up, we've tried to play this way, we're trying to show everybody what we're about, and then we will attract players based on the project and what we're trying to do. And obviously the pull that the manager has got, because there's a lot of players that do play for Burnley now that you would never have seen at Burnley. You know, like your young French lads, you would never have seen. It was Sean Dyche Brexit ball. That's all it was. There were Irish lads, British lads, an Icelandic lad thrown in for good measure. But that's all it was. But now you get the young French lads. I know a few people at the club, they say the dynamic in the changing rooms is so different. Said the majority of people in the changing rooms now speak French, which is just bizarre to me. Like it's like they could barely speak English this time 2 years ago in the changing room. So yeah, it's interesting, but I think I like what we're trying to do, and I want it to work. I want it to work the way we're doing it, because I respect Dyche and I love Dyche. He's probably the most successful manager in my lifetime, and he's still my favourite manager. You know, despite going to Everton and sticking 6 past us so far since he's been there. But it just got tedious, that style of play. It just got boring. Like I liked it at first because we're ruffling a lot of feathers in the Prem, and you know the big 6 teams would always have a bit of a mourn on Twitter, and it were beautiful to see. Like we go somewhere, sit back, upset the fans, nick a win, and then they cry on Twitter, and it were brilliant. But when you're losing every single week, that's horrendous. And the last 18 months under Dyche were pretty poor. So I like the way we are trying to do it, and I want it to work. But I'm not sure it will for a club like Burnley. But what we have to do is make sure we stick by a company now, go down, stick with him, come back up with him, hopefully, and then give him another crack. Because I think the main thing as to why the season has gone the way it's gone is company's inexperience. It has been stubborn with player decisions, with styles. And I think he will become a better manager for this. And it would be stupid of us to write this season off, let company make these mistakes that he's going to improve from, and then not benefit from that, and then let another club benefit from that. So for me, stick by him, stick with him, go down, hopefully come up, and then judge him then. If he has another bad season and we're getting spanked every week in October, get rid of him. But hopefully by then, we will see the improvement and we'll start kicking up the league and hopefully seeing the rewards for this season, because it is just written off at the minute, and it's been disappointing.
No, mate, I agree with what you said on company. It's funny because he was one of the names on our managerial shortlist to come into Chelsea. I don't know how close he ever was, but he was certainly a name that was on the list and was touted. And I think there's a promising young up and coming manager there. And exactly as you said, needs to be allowed to learn from the mistakes that he's made to improve as a manager. Absolutely should be staying whether you go up or stay down. Are the Burnley fan base still pretty unified behind him being the right guy, or are there murmurings or some sections of support that think, actually, do you know what, maybe a change might be better for us?
Yeah, there are murmurings actually, and I'm surprised to see how a fan base react like this. I felt like we were always quite a calm fan base that would stick by our managers. In my lifetime, I'm just trying to think. Obviously, Dyche was sacked. Before that, Eddie Howe left. Owen Coyle left. Brian Laws was sacked. And then Stan Turnant, I'm going back some time here. Cottrell was sacked. So we don't sack many managers. I think there's been like 3 or 4 in my lifetime. The majority of them, the contract runs out or they decide to leave. So I'm surprised to see our fan base react like that. There are murmurings, but not obviously going back to everything I've just said, because I was speaking for quite a while in that last answer. But just to back that up, people have got to remember he's what, 37? I'm 36 and I'm sat here in my spare room talking to a webcam. He's 37. He's going to make mistakes. And the fact that he's a very intelligent man. And the fact that he had such a good playing career doesn't always transfer into a good managerial career. I get that. But there's just something about him that I feel is different. Like, I don't think he's going to end up like Lampard, like Gerrard, like kind of just like the forgotten man at the minute. Who knows? Them two could come back and have good managerial careers, but we'll see. But I do think he's a level above them two. But I think based on this season, some people could argue that. But I think he just needs to be shown that he is. And I think he will do. Like I said, he's 37. Like, that is very, very, very young for a manager. And we need to... he's going to have made mistakes this season. I respect that, and he has made mistakes, but we need now to stick by him and see him learn from this season. That's what we need to see. We need to see the fact that Kompany and Bellamy, of course, because he's the assistant, have learned from this season.
No, absolutely. I mean, let's talk about some of the summer signings. You know, Burnley spent a little bit of money. James Trafford came in, big signing in goal. It was been dropped last time out against Brentford for Muric. A lot of things I've been seeing, you know, perhaps that change should have taken place a number of weeks earlier. What have you made of the goalkeeping situation at Burnley this season? And then how would you assess James Trafford? Because there's a lot of money to spend on an England under-21 keeper from Man City. Obviously, he'd obviously played a key part in England winning the under-21 European Championships. But do you think it's a case of he's just not quite ready for the Premier League yet?
100%. Like, again, I don't know his age off the top of my head. I think he's 20, 21. He's very young. And it's funny because the club have obviously done some content with him over the course of the season. And you can see that he's young in that content. Like, he acts like a teenager because he essentially is just in early adulthood. So when you see stuff like that, you realise how young he is. But I think we've played it wrong. I think bringing him in was right. Potentially not for that much money, but obviously when you're dealing with Man City, they're always gonna get the most out of it. Thing is, we've brought him in for rumours are 19 million. I'm told it's a little bit less than that, but we brought him in. We'll just go with what the press have said, 19 million. We brought him in for that, and City have got a buyback clause on that for 60 million. Now, obviously the club have seen that and gone, excellent, we can triple our money here because he will be a good goalkeeper, and I do stand by that. I do think he will be England's goalkeeper within the next 5 years, something like that, or in about 5 years. And we need to make sure we keep hold of him and then see an improvement on him and he gets better. And then we can obviously resell him. Because I think a lot of the stuff, a lot of the signings that the club have made, all they've been thinking about is resale value. That's all they've been thinking about, which is opposite to what Luton have done. Luton have brought players in for now. And you can see that's why they're a bit better than us this season, because they brought in your Ross Barkleys, your Andros Townsends, the people that will come in and make your team better, especially in the Premier League with the Premier League experience. But they're going to get nothing. Maybe they might make some money on Ross Barkley if they're selling this summer when they get relegated. But they're not good. They're in terms of the money that they spent on them in wages and stuff like that. They're not going to see a return on it more than likely. Whereas with Trafford, even despite his bad season, I fully expect us to sell him for a profit. And same with a lot of these players that have come in. Luca Koleosho, he's been injured for a while. Wilson Odebear, he's come in for Koleosho and he's been class. We'll sell him for a profit probably in the summer when we get relegated. So we have made some good signings in terms of resellable assets, but in terms of now, I think with Trafford we played it wrong. I think we should have brought him in, loaned him out to a Championship club, kept Muric in the side, and then reap the rewards next season of improving Trafford, and then selling him on maybe the season after, have a good season in the Prem. So now we'll probably have stuck by him for too long, in my opinion. We should have replaced him earlier in the season. But for me, Muric should have never have been dropped. But after watching him, a lot of Burnley fans are aware that he should have been dropped, and Kompany's been a bit stubborn by it. But yeah, Trafford will go on to be a very good goalkeeper, and the fact that he was actually called up to the senior England squad this weekend, which for me was balmy, but I completely understand it at the same time because he was at St George's Park anyway, so you might as well just call the under-21s keeper up. That just shows that the level that people in the game think of him. So I completely agree. He will be a very, very, very good goalkeeper, and he will have a very good career and go on to play for England, like I've said. But he's just not ready yet. He's just not ready yet, and we shouldn't have thrown him in the deep end at the start of the season, in my opinion. Yeah,
mate, I hear what you're saying about resale value. I think we've gone down a similar route with a lot of signings in terms of not necessarily buying them because they're going to play for Chelsea, but just getting them in because they'll go on loan for a few years, hopefully improving, and there'll be a resale value there. I think we're finding out, and you're finding out at sort of different ends of the scale. But the same problem is that there's no substitute for the here and now and players that can come in and do a job straight away, regardless if there's no resale value, regardless if you might end up making a loss on them. You're going to make a lot more money staying in a division or qualifying for Europe or winning a trophy, which those guys potentially would help you to do. So look, I get why clubs look to go down that route, but there's a balance to get right. And
exactly that.
You need the right mix. And I just think maybe Burnley might have got that slightly wrong. And I think on a larger scale, I think perhaps ourselves have got that slightly wrong as well. With the route that we've chosen to go down. But I mean, I
completely agree. Yeah, I think we should have mixed it up slightly. Yes, bring Trafford in, but don't throw him in at the deep end. Like I said, put him in the Championship. If he didn't want that, then don't buy him. Go down a different route. But yeah, I completely agree. Like Andros Townsend was actually here at Burnley in the summer. Like he played games for us in the summer, but Burnley decided for whatever reason, apparently he failed his medical, for whatever reason, that they didn't want him. It was probably this medical issue with him, because obviously he's had knee issues for a while. And they just thought, no, we won't sign him. But if we'd have had him at fullback, we'd have been stronger this season, and we would have probably picked up a few more points. So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. There's a mix. Yes, you want resellable assets, especially a club like Burnley who don't regularly have. Well, I'm going to say regularly have Premier League money coming in, but I guess 8 out of the last 10 seasons is great. Yeah, and the revenue is quite small. Obviously, a club compared to Chelsea, obviously you've got regularly got Champions League money coming in. You've got obviously a big crowd coming in. So you have to go down that route for a club like Burnley. You need to sell your assets to survive. But we also should have, like you said earlier, hit the nail on the head again perfectly. Had a look at a bit of the here and now and just got a few more experienced players in alongside these youngsters.
I mean, one guy that has come in, on loan from us in January and has made a good impact, I think a better impact than I was certainly expecting, maybe a better impact than Burnley fans were expecting. Obviously, he won't be available this weekend, but David Datro Fofana. First two things, mate. What were your thoughts of the move when it happened? And secondly, how impressive have you been with the impact he's had in such a short space of time?
When it happened, it was a bit underwhelming because he didn't do great on loan at Union Berlin at the start of the season. He started well, then faded, and we were like, do we really need another forward? That was the most underwhelming thing. Like we didn't feel like we needed another forward. Like Lyle had his issues, like his mental health issues, but it had looked like he'd come out the other end of it. And we also had Jay Rodriguez, who admittedly isn't good enough for the Premier League, but still we had backup there because we have got Zeki Andune as well. So we were thinking that's not the problem area. The problem area is defence, bringing another defender in. I think in the end we did bring another defender in, but we were underwhelmed. But he's a bizarre player. Like I like him, don't get me wrong, and I'd love it if we could keep him. Obviously, I very much doubt we will, but I'd love it if we could keep him. But he's a bizarre player because he's got a good link-up play, good hold-up play, is quite strong. And then at West Ham, which I'm sure you would have seen and would have enjoyed with it being against West Ham, sticks the ball in the top bins from 35 yards. I'm like, whoa, what is this? Where's this come from? Then against Brentford, he misses from 3 yards out. It's like, they're the two sides of him. And yes, he's young. You're going to have these moments where he's just probably not as composed as he should have been because he's not got the experience. But yeah, he's come in and he's definitely improved us. I think he's knocking on the door of being our top goal scorer already for a start. But we have had issues up front. But he's come in, he's definitely improved us up front. And it is a shame that we're going to miss him this weekend. But Lyle Foster, when he was playing at the start of the season, did very well. Obviously, had to take a break due to mental health issues and recently had another injury as well. But he did come on in the second half against Brentford. So it will probably be a case of him being up front. And if we are sitting back and your defence is quite weak, we'll probably set up in a similar way to what we did away to Villa earlier in the season. I think it was it was around Christmas time. It might have been New Year's Day. I can't remember exactly when it was. But we kind of sat back and then just hit them on the counter. And Lively's so fast, he was getting in behind and finishing him. And I think he scored a couple of goals like that day. And it was absolutely fantastic. So we'll probably set up in a similar way against you this weekend without Fofana, because obviously Foster will be playing in his place.
I mean, you touched on it there. Is that how you expecting Burnley to approach it? Men behind the ball, try and frustrate us, and then obviously maybe take advantage from set pieces, trying to take advantage on the counter attack. Is that how you'd expect Company to approach it? Would you be surprised if you turned up and kind of tried to play?
We will try and play. That's the problem. Like, that's what we will do. Like, yes, we probably will be a little bit more apprehensive and not throwing everybody forward like we would have done in the Brentford game, for example, or the Bournemouth game. We will sit back a little bit more. And what we do, we have the defensive midfielder, normally Cullen, who's come back into the side recently, has been very, 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 very good. They sit in front of the defence, and then without the ball, they kind of make it a back five. So they'll probably do that. Yes, try and frustrate you, but not just sitting back. That's just not what Burnley do anymore. It's just not how we play. When we get the ball, we will try and play. But with Lyle being back in it, like I said, it adds another dynamic. Yes, we will probably try and play around at the back, which I don't like, especially away from home against a traditional Big Six club, and then try and lure you in and obviously beat the press, and then that's when we'll counter-attack you. We will try and play it. We will try and have a bit of the ball when the time is to have the ball. But then hopefully hit you on the counter-attack with Lyle's pace. Set pieces is not something we are any good at anymore, both defending and attacking. So I doubt we'll be looking to try and win free kicks and corners and stuff like that. It's just not how we play anymore. It's more a case of just trying to play through you, whether it be counter-attacking or possession football. Obviously, against you, it's probably going to be more counter-attacking.
I mean, you've got 9 or 10 games left this season. As you said, you know, rightly or wrongly, you've kind of been brought a little bit back into play with, obviously, with the win against Brentford, the points deduction for Forest. You are kind of within touching distance. Yes, it's probably going to require you to win more games in these last 9 or 10 than you've won all season. But when you look at a trip to Chelsea, obviously you need every point you can possibly get to stay up. But you're looking at this game, do you view it as a fan as a bit of a free hit? Whatever we get from this is a bonus, and kind of concentrate on the games against the teams in and around you that you've got left? Or do you look at it and think, actually, you know what, we can't approach it like that. We need every point we can possibly get. With just 9 or 10 left, we can't really be afford to be sort of writing games off, as it were. But I mean, how do you look at this game from that point of view?
Yeah, I think probably the latter. I think if we're playing you in, January, it'd probably be a case of, probably, despite their troubles this season, anything at Stamford Bridge is a bonus. But traditionally, we have done okay at Stamford Bridge. We've beaten us here and there.
Recently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The year we qualified for Europe, the first game of the season, all right, you had 2 men sent off and we still nearly threw it away. But but we did beat you. But then even after that, we've picked up a couple of draws. And so, we have done quite well at Stamford Bridge. I was there when we beat you in the League Cup that year on penalties. So, it's not a horrible hunting ground for Burnley. But it's one of them, because obviously it's Chelsea, but you're not as good this season. So I do expect us to get beaten. I'm sure we'll get into the prediction soon. But I don't think at this stage of the season, with, as you've mentioned, the trouble that we're in and the fact that we need points, I don't think you can look at any games now as a free hit. Even if we're playing City away, yes, we probably will get beat, and you're not looking at where we can pick up points for the season and pinpointing this game, but you can't just write it off as well. So hopefully we try and get something out of it. Hopefully we don't just write it off. I would probably take a 2-1 defeat, though, and a good performance, because then we can take that into the big 4 games we've got coming up after you. But yeah, put it this way. If we went to Stamford Bridge and got a win, for example, which it would shock everybody around us, it would put everybody around us on edge, and it would give us so much confidence. So we can't write it off because of that. We have to go into this game thinking we can get something, looking at the league table, saying, well, Chelsea haven't had a great season. All right, yes, their home form is better than away form this season. So for me, yes, I do think we'll get beat, and I do think you'll have too much quality for us, but we can't be writing games off at this stage of the season with the position that we're in.
No, absolutely. I think what you say is spot on in terms of, look, no one's really expecting Burnley to win, but I think what's really important is, particularly with so few games left, particularly from a mentality point of view, is that you don't turn up and just get rolled over and hammered. If you lose maybe 2 or 3-1 or whatever, but you give a good account of yourselves, it was a close game, you maybe concede a couple on the break in the last 10-15 minutes, you can take confidence from that. Whereas if you get hammered sort of 3-4 or 5-0 or whatever, which, well, I'm not saying it will happen, but it could happen, then that's going to have a much more negative knock-on effect than if you'd given a good account of yourselves, but still come up short. Anyways, I think it's really important from a Burnley perspective that, look, no one's expecting you to win, but that you actually give a good account of yourselves and you don't just get turned over, because I think that could have a negative effect on the remaining games. From a Chelsea perspective, mate, what players kind of worry you on Saturday?
The main one's Cole Palmer. He's had a very, very good season. And obviously, we just did a show on my channel as well. We were saying he was actually linked to us at the start of the season. And I remember when he was linked to us, I remember thinking he would be a good addition. But somebody like a Palace or an Everton or maybe even a West Ham is going to come in for him, and we're going to fall short in that, because obviously the player's going to want to go to one of them clubs rather than battling relegation. And then you boys went in for him. I'm like, wow, I weren't expecting that. I don't think he's a Chelsea player. I don't think he's that good yet. But again, he's proven me wrong on that. He's been absolutely fantastic. And I really, really like him. And I actually quite like the celebration as well, because it's just so basic. But it's become like a trademark thing. I do like him. He's a good player. He's a good finisher. I'd want him at the Euros as well in the summer, but that's a different debate. But yeah, Cole Palmer does worry me. He's a very, very good player. Obviously scored against us. All right, a penalty, admittedly, but scored against us at the turf. But pretty much your entire front line, to be honest. Jackson, who became like a meme at the start of the season, but has been slowly getting better and did score against us again at the turf earlier in the season. And Mudryk as well. Like, again, he received a lot of criticism when he first joined Chelsea, but I never really understood it. He was hit and miss, admittedly. But it were a new player in a new league where he'd never been before, acclimatising to it. And I think now you're starting to see the good player. And I think based on our defence and how many goals we've conceded so far this season, them three do worry me. And it's mainly the front line of Chelsea that worries me. I think we're going to struggle against them three.
Yeah, we've definitely got the pace and the guile and the skill and whatnot in that front line to cause problems. It's just the case of how many chances are we going to need to score a few goals, because that's still the problem. We create a lot of chances, but there's still a bit of a lack of cutting edge at times from the forwards. They might need 2 or 3 goals, 2 or 3 chances to get a goal. So we do need to improve that ratio, despite the fact we've improved a lot in front of goal this season. Mate, from a scoreline perspective, anything would be a massive bonus for you. Everyone likes to back their team, but I mean, sometimes we have to be realistic. What are you expecting from Burnley? Do you think you can get a point, 3 points there, I say, or do you think, probably going to lose?
I think we can get a point. I think we can get 3. Like, we have played well this season in patches, and if we can, this is a problem with Burnley. Like, you might see it on Saturday. Like, they'll be really good for 45 minutes, and then they'll just be terrible in the next half, or vice versa. They'll be terrible in the first half and really good. If we can do what we did against West Ham in the first half for 90 minutes, then yes, we can win at Stamford Bridge. Do I think we'll do that? No. We just haven't seen the consistency yet so far this season from us. Even against Brentford, we went 2-0 up. They had 10 men, and then we sat back and we were quite poor after that, and we're relatively lucky to actually hold on in the end. We are capable of it if we played like that for the entire game, but that's the problem. We haven't done that at any point this season. So I do think ultimately, I think the problem is ultimately you'll just have too much quality. I've mentioned that front line already. I just think that quality will eventually show. Even if it's a tight game and we frustrate you, the quality in that front line will eventually show, and it will get you over the line. I do think you'll win. I've gone for 2-1 to Chelsea. I think we can score because your back line can be quite suspect. And if Lyle finds a form that he had early in the season, especially in that Villa game, he was fantastic in that Villa game, then he can score. And he's a really good finisher as well, and he's fast. So I think Lyle can cause a few problems and get at you. Wilson Odebear as well. He's a very good player. Probably will stay in the Premier League or go to another top league in the summer. I can't see him staying at us. I've been told that his agent's actually been watching and coming to Burnley to talk to people already about a potential move. So he's fantastic. But they're the two standout. Lyle Foster, probably, who hopefully will be playing, and Wilson Odebear as well. But yeah, I just think ultimately Chelsea will have too much quality for us, unfortunately.
No, I agree. I think early goals going to be key for us. We don't want to get frustrated. Fans get frustrated. The longer it stays level, the more that frustration grows. But I think, as I said, we've got the quality. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. Defensively, we've not been great this season. I think Burnley probably get a goal, but I'm going to go for a 3-1 Chelsea win. But ultimately, as long as we get the 3 points, I'm not too fussed what the score is. But yeah, mate, thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate it. If people want to check out more of what you do, where should they be going?
Yeah, so we are on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of them. Just search Turfcast Podcast. We do 3 podcasts a week. 2 of them include shows. One's live on YouTube. Obviously, one you've just been in. That's the pre-game show. Then we do the full-time show. Then we have the Fan Reaction Podcast, which is also clipped up and put as individual videos on YouTube. That's quite a new podcast, actually. Started just after the Brentford game, which we will hopefully, if we get enough sent in, be doing it again this week. But yeah, just head to Turfcast Podcast. Search it on any any search engine, including Google. Other ones are available, but they're not as good. But yeah, you will find us if you just search Turfcast Podcast.
Nah, perfect. Guys, make sure you check out that. Go and show Joe some love over at Turfcast. Subscribe to the channel. I'll link it in the description, tag it in the title. So make sure you do go and support them. Yeah, guys, for myself, smash the like, subscribe if you're new around here. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and we'll catch you again in another one soon.